Oh, yes. Welcome and welcome back to You Bleeping Nerds. UBN. It's good to hear from y'all. It's good to see y'all. It's your boy A, man. It's your boy Aaron. Here bringing you Kaiju number 8, season 2, episode 20 breakdown. But before we get into all that, man, it is great to see you all checking in with this podcast. Like I said, you're here with You Bleeping Nerds, where we break down, not just anime, we break down cartoon, sci-fi, movie, whatever we want. It's our show. We do what we want. So we're going to hop into Kaiju number 8, episode 20 of season 2, Destiny. It was a really good show, but I wanted to let y'all know that we try to do a podcast every 2 days a week, Monday and Friday. Today, Monday, we're going to be, like I said, doing Kaiju number 8. On Friday, we're going to be breaking down Gachi Yakuta, episode 9. I've been waiting for that series to pick up because, honestly, I'm going to just be real with y'all, it just hasn't been hitting for me. It was on my highest anticipated this year. It just wasn't hitting for me. To be totally honest, it just wasn't. So, we're just not, we just weren't going to do it until we had something to talk about, until we had some stuff we liked about it. And now we do. So we're going to jump into that. But today, I'm not going to make you guys wait any longer. We're going to break down Kaiju number 8. It's my stuff. It's my jam. Outside of Dan to Dan, To Be Hero X, which is another show I was thinking about breaking down. Kaiju number 8 is probably my favorite this season, probably my favorite the last year. It's just, fantastic. It has everything you want. It's got action. It's got heart. It's beautiful. It's fun. It's awesome. We're going to jump into this episode today. So, episode 20 of season 2. It's called Destiny. Just hopping into part 1, I love the opening. Shout out Aurora. Can't run from yourself. Fantastic opening, nice little jam to set the tone. I think Kaiju number 8 has been hitting the last 2 seasons between this, and I can't remember off the top of my head, but the opening from the first season was awesome on top of it. The visuals from the opening, too, were fantastic. So, shout out Aurora. Opening's great. Getting to part 1 of this episode, we're cleaning up from, and here in part 1, we're actually cleaning up from last episode. In last episode, we have Reno, who received the Kaiju number 6 weapon suit. A suit that is made out of the most powerful Kaiju up to this point. No one's been able to pilot that weapon up to that point. Reno, has risen up the ranks of the defense force and shown himself highly capable, potentially a genius, according to some. So he was selected to see if he could pilot the number 6 suit. And last episode, we left off in a test. We saw Reno absolutely going berserk. I loved that last episode, the action in it, the way he was using the ice powers, the way, not just like, the offensive weapon, but the way, like, the mobility, the way it looks when he freezes himself in place, like, it was really, really cool. I can't wait to see how, his use with that weapon evolves in the show, because, man, it was really cool. They did a great job last episode. This episode, we're cleaning up the end of that. We have a focus on Iharu, my boy Furuhashi, who, is proving himself to kind of be the heart, or be a character that has a lot of heart, in the defense force. I'm going to just be honest. There's no reason I should care about Furuhashi. There's zero reason, right? Like, he kind of seems like a background, nothing character before these moments. Just kind of fillerish. And I think they did a fantastic job of putting us in his head and showing us his insecurities. Showing that, compared to a couple other characters like, Hoshino, Commander Esawa, Asayo, excuse me, and Reno. He's not that good of a prospect. He's not really a blue chipper. He's really not that guy, or at least so he thinks. But his mindset, right? Like he's really a grounding force in the squad right now, particularly for Reno. Like he's definitely playing guiding light, even within all his insecurities, and I think that's fantastic. I think they did an excellent job showing us his character, showing his heart. Now I mess with Fushihara. You know what I'm saying? I mess with Iharu. He's great. He's great. My shark tooth pompadour boy, he's great. I dig him. I dig him. But yeah, part one of this episode, they're cleaning that up. They're showing Captain Ogata talking to Assistant Toko, and he's observing Iharu abilities, and he's commenting that he doesn't look like he's only releasing 24% of his suit. They actually have him monitored, and they realize that his control of his suit actually spikes up and down pretty wildly. I guess depending on when he's in the zone, if he's really focused or determined. Makes a commentary on like, wow, he's a type just like me, which is interesting. I don't think they have touched yet on the types of fighters, right? And the different abilities people have. So far it's just been the weapons and how much of the suit you can unlock. I'm interested to explore more of what Ogata was talking about when he was saying like, he's a type like me. This is an anime only show, so we don't know. If you read the manga and you're here, first off, thanks. I appreciate you. You dope for that. But this is anime only, so we don't really know what he means. I'm looking forward to see Ogata get busy. I am. I'm looking forward to Ogata to get busy because he's dope. He's got swag. I love his charisma. I love his demeanor. The voice actor, they have playing him. I'm listening to the Japanese version. It's just super smooth. Real smooth daddy voice. So, like, shout out Ogata. Can't wait to see you get busy later. But, Fushihara kind of shows what he's made of. Shooting at the Hanju, the Mama Kaiju, breaking open the core, exposing it for, Reno to launch that final shot, put him down, mission accomplished, we kill the Hanjo, and, all is well, at least in, like, giant monster, murderous land. Ogata, proclaims that he could use the number 6 suit, which is, again, mission accomplished, and, we kind of come to the end of examining that bond, right, between Iharu and Reno, right? We see that, in conclusion, these two characters are stronger together. They're very complementary to one another, both in personality and, possibly even abilities. They are, good combination, man. Good relationships in this show. Captain Ogata's relationship with his kohai, his, subordinates. He seems like he's a very concerned, cautious leader, which I enjoy. Watching how cautious he is, right? And we see why later when we get into the flashback with Hikaru, Isau's wife. But moving on, we defeat the Kaiju. All is well. Mission accomplished on the test of the number 6 suit. Can't wait to see where that goes. But jumping into part 2, going into part 2, we actually hop back to the first division. And everybody, the gang, the first division gang finds out about Reno. He knows, Kafka finds out, Reno, his homeboy, has the number 6 suit. He's been chosen as the number 6 user. And, we get back into a common theme that we're seeing throughout this episode, throughout the show, where Kafka begins to doubt himself, right? He begins to get into his own head on, what does it mean now that, his friend, someone who he started the force at the exact same time with, someone he used to work with in the disposal crew, what does it mean now that he's been selected as number 6, and he's essentially getting put on like the front lines of the biggest battle against the biggest kaiju going forward. And you start to see that, in order to protect his friends, people that he loves, that he's gonna have to continue to beat Kaiju number 8. No matter what happens to his body. We find out last episode, in the previous episode, that he's not going to be able to turn back human if he continues to transform using his kaiju form. And, the slow inevitable march to him permanently being a kaiju, that countdown, has seemingly begun. But he understands that, the war is coming, especially with kaiju number 9. It's only going to get worse. The big moment isn't here yet. They know humanity is going to need kaiju number 8. And his friends, in order to protect his friends, he's going to need to be kaiju number 8. So he's already in his head ready to sacrifice himself. Basically ready to sacrifice his humanity for the sake of humanity, That is until my boy, my special man, my homie, my dog, Vice Captain Hoshino pops up to spit a little bit of that game to him. I'ma just be transparent with you. Hoshino's my favorite character. Why? Because he's fucking awesome. What do you mean why? He's fucking dope. Everything he does is dope. Scene to scene, he's dope. Look, let me calm down. He runs into Kafka. He runs into Kafka, and he sees he's down in the dumps. He's talking to him. He's got to talk to the man. But first he runs up with the swords. Basically saying like, put the blades to his neck. Said that's from lying to me. That's from hiding from me. Like that was just so cool. Like the way they animated that, just every second to second, moment to moment. Hoshino is so dope, man. Like he's just so dope. Everything that I still get back to that fight of the attack on the base by Kaiju number 10, and like how just badass, like just how he just held the fort and just how badass he was. Like, love me so Hoshino. But like so he's talking to Kafka. He's basically saying like, if you keep being Kaiju number 8, you're not gonna be human anymore. So stop doing it. Cut it out. Let me handle it. Right? Let us handle it. You don't need to throw your humanity away. Let us protect you, right? Which, it's kind of an obvious thing, right? Like Hoshino has this thing with him where he's a lot of different things at the same time, right? Like he's kind of goofy and unserious. You can see that when he threatens Kafka with the blades. Kind of, he's just joking, right? Like he's pissed about that, but like he's just kind of joking, right? When he starts to choke him out, anytime he gets an answer he doesn't like from Kafka, when he's saying like, come get my spot, and then he's like, psych, you think you actually gonna get my spot? He's hilarious. He's hilarious. But then it's moments like these where you also see that he's very thoughtful and he's very kind. He's a real softie, right? You can see that he is. You can see he's a real softie, because he's basically saying to Kafka like, let me sacrifice my life. You don't need to sacrifice yours. If you recall, we've seen in, I think it was 2 episodes ago, the agreement he made with Kaiju number 10 to use him as a weapon in exchange for the information he got on Kaiju number 9. And I'm sure that is in Hoshino's mind when he decides to come have this conversation with Kafka, where it's like, I'm in basically a similar spot, if not the same spot as Reno, where like I'm about to do something unprecedented, take our abilities, our weapons to the next level, and it might cost me my life. It's super dangerous, and it might cost me my life. And so, I'm risking my life so people that I care about, don't have to risk theirs. And just in this little moment, you can see him expressing that to Kafka really in his own way. And that's just why I love the dude, man. Like, he's just a cool dude. He's just a nice, cool, funny, awesome, badass dude, man. He's great in this moment. It's always good to have him on screen. But Kafka being Kafka is like, no, just not happening. Like, I'm not gonna let you guys do that for me. I'm a man. I'm 30. You know what I'm saying? I'm not gonna let you do that for me. If my friends specifically, but if the world needs help, I'm gonna turn into Kaiju number 8, and I'm gonna save the people I care about. That's who I am. That's how I'm built. Respect the Kafka. That's why you love that guy, right? So before I continue, I love this conversation. I love this whole conversation. Because it's serious, it's heartfelt, it's tender, it's understanding. Both of these characters, both Kafka and Hoshino, are going through the same thing in their own way. Right? Hoshino having his own insecurities and self-doubt. We saw initially that with the kaiju getting bigger and bigger, his style, right? His honed traditional style is being seen as less useful, right? So we saw him struggle to find his place in the defense force and his place in protecting the country. Kafka being, he was never ever able to pass the exam, Special Defense Force, to actually make it on his own. Only until he became Kaiju number 8 was he able to do so. and that's why he feels he's only useful if he uses Kaiju number 8, because he never could ever get this close without having Kaiju number 8, and throw away his humanity, not only to protect people, but to reach his dream of being next to Ashiro. Squad Captain 3, taking Hoshino's spot, basically. So this is an interesting conversation between these two characters, because they're going through so much of the similar things at the same time, to where they really understand each other. And it's coming through where, like, the empathy, where Hoshino is like, don't throw your life away, right? Why? Because I'm about to sacrifice my life, so there's no point in you sacrificing your life. And that's how Kafka feels about Reno. That's how Reno feels about Urahara, right? That's probably how, Commander Isao felt about everyone, felt about Narumi, That this is why I love the show, is that, great stories are about relationships with people. And around the kaiju stuff, you're getting these relationships between all these people, Captain Ogata and his squad in squad, I think that's squad 4, with Reno and and Toko and Urihara. You're, like I said, Hoshino now with Hoshino with Kafka. Ooh, man, sorry, y'all. Yeah, Hoshino with Kafka in this moment, But not just that, you got Ashiro, squad 3 leader, and Hoshino. There's a mentor-y, relationship there. But, I digress. The relationships between the character and the show is just real nutritious, right? It's good nutritious stuff. And, to me, it's what makes the show great, right? And also, fight scenes are beautiful, all of that stuff. So, moving on, like I said, Kafka basically says, sorry, not sorry. I'm Kaiju number 8. I'm going to be Kaiju number 8. That's what I'm going to do. So Hoshino is like, yeah, okay, I got you. So then we're going to just make you strong, right? Like, I'm just going to train you. I'm just going to make it so, you don't have to be Kaiju number 8 for extended periods of time to get what you need done. He brings up, it's kind of a more practical approach anyway, because, like, outside of fighting Kaiju number 9, you're going to fight other Kaiju anyway. Like, there's just no way. Like, you said, you're going to become Kaiju number 8, whether I want you to or not. So I might as well just make it better for everybody, which is probably what he was going to do the whole time anyway. But, Hoshino, he's got to be a little coy, a little sly about his actual intentions. I figure his intentions were just to train him anyway. So he brings him to a shrine. It's a shrine to, I think it's called the Meireki Daikaiju Battle Shrine, which is basically the first giant kaiju they had to fight. I think it said 1665, so basically the 1600s. They had to fight like one of the first Daikaiju to show up. And they built this entire shrine to them, and it's hollowed ground. You can feel the spirits in it. And a few things. Guys, what the fuck do you mean we were fighting? We were fist fighting kaiju. Like, what are you talking about? Like, excuse me. I'm a little under the weather, but like, what do you mean we were fist fighting kaiju? Like, they start sparring at the shrine, Kafka and Hoshino, and Hoshino hits him with a technique that Commander Isao used on him, and he describes it as it's a honed technique from hundreds of years of fighting kaiju with our hands. And I'm just like, guys, are y'all telling me y'all were really like squaring up with kaiju in the street back in like the 1600s? Like, y'all didn't have no swords, y'all didn't have no sticks, like nothing. Y'all didn't have no like flaming wood that like y'all was really out there like boxing with the kaiju like Hajime no Ippo stuff. Like, and I'm like, that's the show I want to watch. Where's that show? Like, where's the show where you just got somebody out there like scrapping it out Streets of Rage style with some like, I don't know, like mini lizards? Like, were kaiju smaller back then? Like, were they just like kind of tight? They were kind of like freaky little dog lizard things, and people just be like, "What is that? A kaiju, bitch? Mother, fuck!" Like, it's just so ridiculous to me that like the whole like this technique came from the idea that we used to like bare knuckle box kaiju. Oh no, I'm sorry. I just had to make that point. I just had to make that point when Hoshino said, like, yeah, it comes from, like, the original hand-to-hand combat of fighting kaiju. I was just like, what kaiju were y'all stealing on back in the day? Like, y'all were walking up just punching kaiju in their face off GP. like, man. Oh man, no, but I'm gonna get back to this episode, yo. I just had to do that because that was wild to me. Like, that was wild to me when he said that. But yeah, so they begin training. Poor Kafka, getting his ass whooped. That's tough. That's tough, you know what I'm saying? It's bad, like, when dude got his hands behind his back and he doing that thing, he dipping you. You know what I'm saying? And he just punching you in the face. Like, one thing that made me laugh about that scene is that, like, Kafka gets punched in the face, like, oh, bow. And he was like, damn, I can't fuck with him. And then he was like, no, man, you getting good. And I'm like, I can't imagine, like, getting punched in the face and then being like, thank you. You know what I mean? Like, I be a little too salty. I can't be too enthusiastic when you just put one right on my chin. Like, I can't do it. But that's why I love anime, man. But yeah, they're training. They're seeing what Kafka's got. He's getting beat like he stole something. He getting beat like a dirty rug in the street. But that's okay. You know what I'm saying? He's learning. Takes his ass whooping, learns his lesson. Hoshino has a really good speech at the end. Like, I actually have it here in my notes when, here it is right here. The speech when he's, basically talking about Captain Isawa perfecting that hand-to-hand combat technique, and what it really means to fight kaiju, and the tradition right, of the country in this show. The tradition, like I said, they were fighting kaiju back in the 1600s, barehanded, apparently. And it was really, again, another great Hoshino moment where, he after he pounds him, he shows him, the fruits of his hard work and the fruits of his menteeship under Isao, and what it taught him, and what Isao taught everybody. Not just Narumi, but Hoshino also. And just another high point moment for my boy Hoshino, man. And it was overall, the episode was really good. That was pretty much the end of the episode. At the end, they see a little spirit. I called it a zombie samurai kaiju question mark. TBD. I don't know. Say kaiju number 11. I haven't read the manga, so I don't know. But yeah. Seeing that was kind of cool. I'm interested to see what that actually was. Pretty sure it was a kaiju. You saw Kafka react to it on their way out of the shrine. Seemed like his kaiju abilities were reacting to it. So, pretty sure it is a kaiju of some sort, or, related to a kaiju of some sort. So we'll see where that is. But that's pretty much the end of the episode there. In conclusion, overall, another really good episode. We cleaned up the number 6 storyline from the episode before in part 1. Again, love Iharu, love Fushihara, love that guy. Captain Ogata, love him. Reno's relationship with both of those people, it's really enjoyable. I love when they talk. I love when they talk about it. I love the story we got between Captain Ogata and Hikaru, which is blonde hair girl's mother, Commander Isao's wife, that we saw. And we saw perish in the fight with number 6. That was the fight she died when Kaiju number 6 showed up. We got we got to see a little bit of their backstory and his thoughts on, Captain Ogata's thoughts on a lot of things. You see why he's so cautious with the number weapons. He's lost basically all of his friends from back when he first joined the squad. Isao being essentially the last one, last one besides him. He sees not only, are they dangerous weapons in themselves, but being a user of those weapons, you are the front line. You are sent in to fight the most dangerous, most powerful, biggest, scariest kaiju that pop up. So, he talks about his regrets. He talks about how, he kind of wishes that he would have said something to Hikari about, maybe you shouldn't do this. He was thinking, maybe if I would have expressed caution and I would have told you how I felt, maybe, my friend, possibly love interest, question mark, I don't know. But, maybe my friend would be alive. Maybe, maybe Isao would be alive. Maybe these other people would be alive, if I were more cautious, or if I advised you guys to be more cautious and I was less encouraging of you guys, using these weapons. And I thought that was really interesting, right? Again, it's really interesting. You got all these characters around, all they're worried about is getting stronger. That's all they care about. Kafka needs to get stronger. Hoshino, again, worried about his fighting style and technique. Is it becoming less effective? Reno having to prove himself effective. Iharu wanting to be stronger, not being as strong as some of the other cadets. You got all these characters. Hell, even number 9. The whole assault on the Japanese Kaiju Defense Force was to get Kaiju number 5. Was to get the powers of Kaiju number 5. And exorbitant, because he needed to get stronger. You got all these entities trying to to get stronger for various reasons, and you got Captain Ogata here kind of cautioning against that strain because he knows the risk. He's seen the risk in every different way. So very cool, very cool episode. Kaiju number 8 is like I said, it's everything for me. It's been a really good season of anime. Dan to Dan season 2 has been fantastic. We're gonna cover that on the program at some point. To Be Hero X is awesome. We'll probably dive into that a different time. But, and on Friday, like I said, we're going to cover Gachi Yakuta because that show is picked up, and I want to start talking about some of the themes in that show. It's been really, really good. But that's the breakdown. Kaiju number 8, season 2, episode 20, Destiny. It's fantastic episode. I definitely give it like a solid 8.5 on the episode. I'm not one of those people where story development and character development is like seen as filler. Like, no, that stuff's important. That stuff's vital. I would call it vital, in fact, to a truly great story. Shout out Footy Ren, sorry, solo leveling. But check in with us Friday. We're going to be doing Gachi Yakuta. I think that's episode 9. I'm going to be breaking that down. And then check us out. Every Monday and Friday, we're going to break down, anime here at You Bleeping Nerds, anime and other programs and stuff like that. And we're going to be adding more shows, to each day a week. So we're going to be doing more episodes. But thank you for hanging out with me here at You Bleeping Nerds, UBN. It's great to have y'all. It's your boy A. You guys take care. I'll see y'all next time. Peace.